Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering to discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions. If you like the show, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Joining me once again, as always, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is today we are going to be talking all about Inside Out 2, the latest of the big Disney Pixar movies that hit Disney Plus this week. Big, summer blockbuster, kind of return to form for Pixar after, Elemental did fairly well last year, but it basically bounced back after a slow opening, kind of like crawled across the finish line there. Lightyear was a rough one a couple years back, and then obviously pandemic stuff. So first big win for Pixar, I think, kind of since pre-pandemic stuff. So yeah, let's talk about Inside Out 2. This was originally released June 14th, 2024. Other releases of the time we had back in the beginning of May. May 3rd was The Fall Guy. We had Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, May 9th. If, the John Krasinski directed film, May 17th. The 1-2 punch of the Garfield movie and Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, May 24th. Bad Boys Ride or Die on June 7th. Inside Out 2 here, June 14th. Followed up by the 1-2 punch of A Quiet Place Day 1 and Horizon and American Saga Chapter 1 on June 24th. In particular, I called out Horizon and American Saga Chapter 1 because that was supposed to have a Chapter 2 later in the summer that got pulled from theaters because of how poorly Horizon and American Saga Chapter 1 did, and that one will probably be one of the biggest bombs of the year for the, I believe, self-produced Kevin Costner series of films that was trying to have it was going to try and have like a chapter 3 and a chapter 4 kind of thing.
Yeah, it was very much he was trying to ride the high off of his Yellowstone.
Yeah, exactly.
And being like, hey, it's the same vibe as that. But
when I first I saw like one trailer for it in some movie at some point and was like, did they make a Yellowstone movie? As somebody who like only tangentially barely even knows that Kevin Costner is Yellowstone and that Yellowstone is like, found a big audience with the probably with the like CBS style, 65 plus crowd.
Oh yeah, but it hit really strongly because it touches on like a lot of like just rural American stuff,
Sure.
like rural American culture.
Yeah.
So like it's big in like Wyoming, obviously Wyoming, but also in places like North Dakota, like those upper, like not Midwest states, those upper Western states. It's big there.
Yeah. July 3rd gave us Despicable Me 4 in theaters and Beverly Hills Cops Axel F on Netflix. A couple of weeks later, we got Twisters, July 19th, Deadpool and Wolverine, July 26th, and another big bomb of the year, Borderlands, August 9th. So I don't know how closely you've been following box office stuff, Cameron, but as of today, the domestic gross for Inside Out 2 is sitting at $652.9 million and a worldwide gross of $1.687 billion. Where do you think that falls in the year's breakdown?
I believe that's number one there, Trevor.
That is indeed number one. Good job. Nice, easy one for you this month. But so now I'm curious, especially since we've started playing this the last couple times we've done kind of the top 10-esque stuff. I'm curious how in touch you are with the other films in the top 10. So let's see. I've got some fun little trivia things as I pulled last time. So number 10, and these are all going to be domestic.
Sure.
Worldwide has a few like Chinese exclusive releases that have like crept into the top 10 that have knocked some of these out. So I've stuck to domestic gross here. But number 10, currently sitting at $171 million. This is the latest film in a franchise that started back in 1968.
1968?
1968, yep. The next clue, the latest installment of this rebooted series, The rebooted series started Rising in
Oh,
2011.
it's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Indeed. Yep.
Nice.
Yep. And then, my third bullet point was swap out the crystal skull for some damn dirty creatures, and you have this movie's full title.
There you go.
Number 9, at 100, this is actually close between number 9 and number 8, 193.57 million versus the next one that's 193.59 million. Number 9, 193.57 million. This is, big, broad, like, top 10 strokes. All of these are sequels or franchise movies. There's no originals in the top 10 or anything like that. So the first bullet point I have on this one, another franchise film. This one started back in 1995.
1995.
The second bullet point here, it is the direct sequel to the highest domestic grossing movie of 2020. The third bullet point, I'll give it to you. So, do you want to make any guesses?
Is it Deadpool Wolverine?
No.
No.
That one will come back.
What is this one?
Wait, did you think which part of that franchise do you think started back in 1995?
For a second, I thought maybe I misheard you and you said 1999.
Yeah, gotcha.
So,
So third bullet point: what you gonna do? What you gonna do if they come for you?
oh, Bad Boys! Bad Boys 4?
Yep, Bad Boys Ride or Die.
Yeah.
Yep. The previous Bad Boys, because it was one of the big blockbuster things that released before everything started shutting down in 2020, it ended up being the highest domestic grossing movie of 2020. The Bad Boys, whatever that one's subtitle was. So yeah, that's the weird little like. Yeah, that was at $100 and some odd million. That one was the highest grossing movie of 2020.
I'm just going to put it out there. I'm not a fan of the Bad Boys films.
I've only seen the last one, the one in 2020.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. I think that they have their moments to them, but overall, like, I'm just not. It's just watching two cops be bad at their job.
Sure. I mean, they're all about, as many of the cop movies are, it's all about the action sequences.
Oh, absolutely.
And
and like, it's Michael Bay. Michael Bay's in his bag when it comes to those big action sequences. But
this latest one wasn't Michael Bay. It was the directors. They did the Miss Marvel series, and they did the shit-canned Batgirl movie.
So
this was kind of their like follow-up. I remember like when the first trailer dropped, there was like a really cool sequence of like one of them throwing the gun to the other, and the camera followed the gun kind of as like the point of view shot. It was a cool little bit. Anyway, number 8 with 193.59, so like $20,000 more than Bad Boys Ride or Die. This is the latest installment of a franchise that started back in 2008. Is a sequel to a 2016 DreamWorks film.
give me a second here. It's a DreamWorks film.
What DreamWorks franchises? Just talk through them.
Just right off the top of my head, is this the the latest Despicable Me movie?
That is Illumination. That is not DreamWorks.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. DreamWorks. Yeah, I don't got it. Next bullet point. Let's go.
So last bullet point here. Voice cast led by Jack Black. I can come up with.
Oh, it's Kung Fu with the Kung Fu Panda movie.
Yep, Kung Fu Panda 4.
That's right. Okay, cool.
Yep. Number 7, 196.3 million. This is the latest installment of franchises that began in 1954 and or 1933.
What?
So what is a combination franchise movie that you can think of? Can you think of any?
No.
Sequel to the last installment in this series was the 2021 film. And lastly, Kaiju Battle.
Oh, it's shoot, it's Godzilla, Kong, the latest one of
New
theirs.
Empire. Yep.
Yeah, New Empire.
Yep.
The bad Godzilla movies. Yeah.
Yep. Number 6.
Oh, quick question, by the way.
Yep.
Do you recall the first Godzilla Kong movie, Kong winning?
Well,
Because
Sorry.
Godzilla wins now. I've rewatched that movie. Godzilla wins now.
I mean, like
I remember King
it's
Kong winning.
I feel like it's more of a draw. I feel like they're not giving either one the win. And this one is also, as I understand it, in Godzilla Kong: The New Empire, I believe is more of like a team up film kind of thing.
It is. They're taking on a different dude who is like a chimpanzee.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what they did in the last one. The last one they teamed up against a Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I did enjoy like the Mechagodzilla guy is like the like son of whoever, and it's like his like revenge. So that was cool.
sure. Number 6, 232.6 million and counting. So that's kind of probably going to be your biggest first clue. And actually, I'll go ahead and give you that before I go into the bullet points on this one, because the bullet points are going to give it away.
Is this Deadpool and Wolverine?
No.
Oh, okay.
First bullet point, Deo. Second bullet point, me say day, me say day, me say Deo. Third bullet point, daylight come and me one go home.
Here's the thing. I should know this.
You should know this.
I should know this. And I'm deeply ashamed that I can. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't get there.
Beetlejuice.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Yep. I thought that was a dead giveaway.
No, that was. Here's the thing. That's a super dead giveaway. It's like, here's the thing. You've given me several clues where it's like, I should know this. I don't know it.
Yeah.
There's something like I have like I got dumb brain right now.
You have not been as like focused on the movies that have been coming out this year.
That's fair. Say. My focus has been elsewhere the last like 4 months.
Yeah.
So.
That one, 232 million, and counting, because it's only like in its, I think, second or third week. So, it will continue to make more and more money as it continues to go. Number 5, at $267.3 million. Your first clue here, Oklahoma.
Oh, it's Twisters.
Twisters, indeed.
Yeah.
Yep. The other clues were weather and suck zone.
There we go.
Number 4, $282.1 million. The clue, first clue, sand.
Say that again.
Sand.
Sand.
Second clue, it's coarse and rough and irritating.
The hell?
Third clue, it gets everywhere. I'm just quoting Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, Attack of the Clones. But I'm like, what the hell is that supposed to mean?
Dune Part 2.
Oh, shoot. Okay, yeah, there we go.
I could have given you like some of the.
You give me the misdirect with the Star Wars.
Something like that.
I was like, what Star Wars movie came out?
Yeah, no. Number 3, at jumping up to $360.4 million. The first makeshift clue I'll give you here is it is a movie that you've already tried to guess once in here.
Is it Deadpool and Wolverine?
No.
Okay. Is it Despicable Me 4?
Despicable Me 4, yep. The clues I had were Gru, Minions, third thing. Because if you didn't get it on Gru and Minions, I was probably going to just end the podcast there.
That's fair.
Number 2, jumping ahead. So the last one, $360.4 million. Number 2, it's $628.2 million. We know it's not Inside Out 2. So what do you think number 2 is here, Cam?
That's because it's just Deadpool and Wolverine.
Deadpool and Wolverine, yep. My clues were Bye Bye Bye, Hooey, I'm about to make a name for myself here, and Marvel Jesus.
Nice. First off, not a bad Bayou like Gambit.
Oh, no, I wasn't even trying. That's just me. I wrote out the meme phonetically kind of thing. Hooey, I'm about to make a name for myself here. Like all one word.
I think you could nail if you put your heart into it.
Oh yeah, no, I no doubt I could. I mean, it's not that difficult to just do the like over the top. It's intentionally an over the top Cajun accent. So, and then number 1, Inside Out 2 with 652.9 million. The clues I had there, obviously you didn't need them, but were hockey, emotions, and triple dent gum jingle. So yeah. That's our top 10 movies for the year. The like worldwide looks mostly like that, but like I said, a few Chinese specific films called Pegasus 2, Successor, and YOLO kind of crept in in like the 7, 8, and 9 slots, pushing stuff like Twisters and Beetlejuice in particular are very domestic heavy in their grosses
Yeah.
so far. They didn't perform too well overseas. So they, yeah. Um, do, 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 Back to some of the other trivia whatnots. We have a runtime of 1 hour and 36 minutes. And in the Pixar timeline of things, we had Onward back in 2020, right before everything started shutting down, March 6th, 2020, with its basically abbreviated run. Then we had the pandemic movies of Soul, Luca, and Turning Red. I mean, technically, all of these are pandemic movies because we're still in a pandemic, despite what the government likes to have us think. But yes, Luca Soul was December 25th, 2020. Luca, June 18th, 2021. Turning Red, March 11th, 2022. Then Lightyear was the first back to theaters movie for Pixar,
Yep.
June 17th, 2022. Elemental last year, June 16th, 2023, and Inside Out 2 hitting that middle June spot, June 14th, 2024. Upcoming slates, we have Elio is the next one in the June 13th, 2025 slot next year, followed by Hoppers, March 6th, 2026, Toy Story 5, currently slated for June 19th, 2026, and the recently announced Incredibles 3 with a TBD release date on that one. Our Who's Who, the roll call. Our director is Kelsey Mann. This is her film debut. Her film debut, yeah. She is she's also one of the writers on here, having written on the story for this. She's previously written the story for The Good Dinosaur, Monsters at Work, and now Inside Out 2. The other writers are Meg LaFave and Dave Holstein. Meg LaFave did the screenplay and the story. She wrote the story for the original Inside Out as well, and as well as The Good Dinosaur, Captain Marvel, and My Father's Dragon, and now Inside Out 2. And Dave Holstein worked on the screenplay. He's mostly a TV writer, having written like 19 episodes of Weeds and 20 episodes of a series called Kidding. Our cast of characters have a ton of characters and a lot of little cameo things, so I'm really probably only going to do like one or two things for each of them. But of course, we have Amy Poehler returning as Joy, having been in Saturday Night Live and Parks and Recreation. Newcomer Maya Hawke as Anxiety, having been in Stranger Things. Newcomer Kensington Tallman as Riley, replacing Caitlin Diaz from the first film. She's been in a film, I think it was, called Home Sweet Rome. Lisa Lapira replaces Mindy Kaling as Disgust. She was in the Equalizer series. Tony Hale replaces Bill Hader as Fear, of course, from Arrested Development and Veep. Louis Back returns as Anger from The Daily Show. Phil Smith returning as Sadness from The Office. Newcomer Ayo Adibri as Envy in The Bear and a million other things. Lily Marr as Valentina, another newcomer here. Been in a number of things. The thing I pulled from her IMDb, Guilty Gear Strive. She's in that. Grace Liu plays one of Riley's friends, Grace. She, the credit I pulled for her, she is Mai in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, aka Chadley's like femme counterpart.
Oh man.
Yeah. Sumaya Nuruddin Green is Bree, the other friend. This is her debut role. Adele Exarchopoulos, let's say. Exarchopoulos is Ennui. She's been in a lot of French works, including La Vie d'Adèle, which translates to Blue is the warmest color. Diane Lane returns as the mom, having been in Unfaithful and the Snyderverse. Kyle MacLachlan returns as Dad, having been in Twin Peaks, the 1984 Dune, and recently Fallout. And Paul Walter Hauser is in here as Embarrassment with his whopping one line, but is also out there in Cobra Kai. And then a handful of little cameo bits, or what I've deemed as cameos, and probably Paul Walter Hauser really probably falls in that bucket, but it's usually one of the emotions I elevated him. Yvette Nicole Brown is Coach Roberts. She's been in stuff like Community. Ron Funches is Bloofy. He's a number of things, but I associate him now with Harley Quinn. James Austin Johnson is Pouchy, the voice of Pouchy. He is probably best known today for his Trump impression on SNL. Yang Yi is Lance Slashblade. And he's the English voice of Kiryu in the Like a Dragon series for the last few games. Steve Purcell is the Deep Dark Secret, and he's also the Sam and Max creator. Dave, and all those are like new. Dave Goelz returns as Subconscious Guard Frank. He's probably best known as Gonzo from the Muppets, as well as many other Muppets characters. Kirk R. Thatcher is the foreman, also from the Muppets. He's a writer and director of the Muppets. Frank Oz is in here as Subconscious Guard Dave, of course, also the Muppets / Yoda, Miss Piggy, all that stuff. Paula Pell returns as Mom's Anger. She was an SNL writer for many, many years. June Squibb is in here as Nostalgia, so I guess technically she's another one of the emotions, but she's extra cameo. She was an Academy Award nominee for Nebraska, and fun fact that they realized, like, at the premiere, she was in a movie that Frank Oz directed back in the 90s, I think called In and Out. So they saw each other like at the premiere and didn't know that they'd worked on the movie together. So it was a fun little reunion for them. Pete Docter returns as Dad's Anger. He's, of course, the chief creative officer at Pixar, as well as a writer and director for many of their projects. Paula Poundstone returning as Forgetter Paula, stand-up comedy, Wait, Don't Tell Me. John Ratzenberger as Fritz, the Pixar cameo king. Flea returns as Mindworker Cop Jake, having been in the Red Hot Chili Peppers, as well as the first Inside Out. And Bobby Moynihan as Forgetter Bobby, another SNL person, as well as the Lego Rebuild the Galaxy that we watched a couple weeks ago. Trivia, no awards to speak of yet, but it's probably going to be at least a nominee for Best Animated Film this year, and I imagine probably a likely frontrunner. Pixar Easter eggs. A113, the ever-present CalArts classroom number, is referenced as the Roman numeral ACXIII in the vault of like Deep Dark Secret stuff. It's labeled above the door. The Pizza Planet truck has a little cameo as an origami figure near Joy's bedside.
Oh, that's cool.
Historically, the previous film will give you like a little nod to the next film, and so in Elemental, one of the snacks that was sold at the fireplace was Spark Joy, as a possible nod to Joy's character.
Cool.
This film has a nod to the next film, Elio. I think I saw it because I knew what I was looking for, but this is mostly coming from production designer Jason Deemer did like a Collider interview or something like that, where he highlighted that there's a shot of Elio in one of the memory spheres during the scene where Sadness gets sucked back into headquarters.
Oh,
basically,
okay.
like among all of the memory balls that she kind of drops down with, one of them, I believe, is a shot of like Elio getting like teleported onto like the big intergalactic council that he's in front of in the trailers for that movie. We get a cameo of the Luxo Ball in the Parade of Future Careers. As well as, I didn't put it in here, but I did take a note of it. In that same shot, there is a board game that is like Journey to Imagination or Journey into Imagination, and it's got Figment, which is it's a reference to a ride at Epcot, with Figment the dragon. Figment the imaginary dragon. Riley is a fan of Four Town from Turning Red. It has a little Four Town reunion tour poster above her bed. Because Turning Red mostly takes place in 2002, so this is basically a 20 years later kind of reunion thing.
Oh, that's fun. That's so cool.
Yeah. I guess technically, this I think takes place probably in like 2015 or something like that, because it's only supposed to be like 2 years after Inside Out 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, fun little bit there. This is John Ratzenberger's first voice cameo since 2020's Onward. He was notably absent from the last few films. So maybe he's gonna absolutely lean on his friends over at Pixar and be like, I've got the magic. You brought me back and you made $1 billion.
There you go.
There is the last of the like Pixar specific trivia I have here is a nod to Ralph Eggleston, who's a longtime animator at Pixar who passed away in 2022. The first mind worker that we see join Joy's side in the Anxiety little work farm where they're making all the little worst case scenario memories. He's the one that like makes the first like good positive memory. Again, basically he's got like a little goatee or something like that, and it's very much like he was a nod to that particular animator.
Yeah, they because she was like, oh great, like I see you,
great job, 87. Yeah.
And he turns around, he's like sitting back, cool as stuff. It's like I'm like, huh, that's different from all the others, so that makes sense. That's super cool.
In particular, I think there's also probably like little references and Easter eggs to his like little workstation. The people have said like he had like his influences kind of all around his desk space area kind of thing, and like the art that he loved was always around him. So
that's beautiful.
Nice little like homage that they put in for that character or for that animator. A few other little bits of trivia here. Director Kelsey Mann included an homage to the late Big Bird puppeteer Carol Spinney with Spinney's Pizza. That's the pizza the girls buy after like night 2 when they're all kind of having that hangout. You can read Spinney's Pizza on the boxes. Mount Crushmore includes Jordan, who is the boy featured at the end of the first movie, as well as in the Pixar short Riley's First Date. Phyllis Smith came out of retirement to reprise her role here as Sadness for Inside Out 2, but she requested that Pixar find her a recording studio in Missouri, as she had no intention of traveling all the way to LA just for that. And then last little one, Anger has a small swear jar with coins in it on the shelf next to his bed.
I saw that. I love that. That's such a good... Yeah.
So yeah, what did you think? I talked about this probably at length a few months ago on That Nerdy Site after I saw it with my family. But this was your first time sitting down and watching it. What did you think, Cam, of Inside Out 2?
I have nothing but really positive things to say about this movie. I was blown away by the way that they were able to build off of Inside Out 1. And not just like, oh, we'll add more emotions. It's the complexity of what it means to be alive and to live life, and the variety that comes with that, being like the kind of like an undertone of Inside Out 1. Like life is more than just joy and sad. And like it's these memories all mixed together. Like you have things that make you cry, but are happy memories. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that, times change things. And like, so, coming into this being like, well, so it's going to be about puberty. LOL. Isn't that going to be great? It's like, it's not about puberty. It's about what does it mean when you get thrown curveballs in life. Like the biggest part about growing up is nothing stays the same, which is something that you learn a little bit of last time. But this time it's like, okay, she has her support structure really pulled out from under her in a very vulnerable moment. And like, as somebody who has struggled with anxiety for the vast majority of my life, seeing that represented extremely well, was brilliant. It wasn't just like, oh, she's anxiety, the emotion or whatever. It's like, no, the way that anxiety takes over your life, the way it takes over everything else, is a powerful thing. Panic attacks, like her panic attack in the box, is a very real thing that I have experienced myself. And it's very much like you feel like you are suffering invisibly, like nobody can see you suffering. And that's very much on display there. This is like showing the complexity of these new emotions. It's not just like a joy, sadness, etc. It is very much like a straightforward, or a much more complicated, like ennui or envy. Envy is not like, oh, I'm jealous of everything. Envy is like a appreciation for what other people have, but can go too far. Or to like, or about like envy also being like a drive of like what you crave, like what you want to be. Envy is such a big push in the Firehawk book, like coach book scene, because it's not about like her jealousy. It's about what she wants. Envy being really much more about like what you want. And like really playing on these deeper points to it. Also tying together embarrassment and sadness together is like a very cool kind of like alignment within. If you look at it, if you put them on a spectrum, like those two would definitely be on the same wavelength.
Mm-hmm.
And there's such and then you have that happening, and then you also have with the old emotions, depth being added to them. We got to see joy and sadness like really grow and deepen their bond, and like kind of show different shades of them. This is time we get to see that for Joy again. Joy, of course, not really learning her lesson from the first one, kind of having to relearn it.
There are definitely elements of like, okay, they needed to give her kind of the journey again because she's the main character. But I do like that they initially kind of give us like, oh, she is having a moment of like she has that moment of like, this is all you, sadness, and like she really hands over the reins to sadness when Riley needs sadness, so she has still had that like learning from the previous movie of like, we all provide value here, including sadness, and like their bond is in a much tighter place, and then it is the conflict is with the new emotions. One of the things I loved, and I'm curious if you picked up on it, because I did not catch it until much later in the movie when it's like when the movie is revealing it. The idea that anxiety was doing the exact same thing that Joy had done.
100%, yeah.
Of like the Joy was like cherry picking the memories to create the joyous belief system.
Yep.
It was one of those like I was fully expecting the journey to be, okay, they go get the thing, they bring it back, and they put that back in place, and all's good, and was not expecting the moment of Joy realizing, oh, I'm doing the exact same thing. She needs to be all of us. She needs like, we all make up who Riley is. So I thought that was like a fun extra layer that I was not anticipating from, and maybe it was like I was expecting the movie to be simpler than it was, which I shouldn't, because it's Pixar, and they like doing that extra layer. That's what makes Pixar so often.
I mean, that's what made Inside Out 1 so great. And for them to be like, hey, we're doubling down on it this time around was fantastic. I will say, Joy's weakness was trying to let anxiety, like, she's like, well, I learned my lesson in the last movie. I should just let anxiety, like, take a lead on this. Let her, like, take a lead on it. And at first it works out great. But then, like, this is what happens. You let anxiety start taking over, and you don't regulate it and, moderate it. It takes everything over. And so Joy learning that, and then at the very end of being like, okay, cool, we're good on that. Okay, we're good. Here's back to your special chair. You have anxiety, the T on there being anxiety.
Yeah.
You have her like, and it's like, are any of those things happening? No, but it's good that we're good though.
Yeah.
Like,
what's something like tomorrow that you like? What's something in the more near future? Oh, the Spanish test. There we go. Let's absolutely focus on that. Yeah,
yep.
Great little moment there. One of the things I noticed on this kind of rewatch myself is I think one of the reasons I overlooked that like Joy was very much cherry picking those things for the belief system in that first sequence is because it is very specifically paired with a nice joy and sadness moment. It is Joy taking sadness down there for the first time to help illustrate like how much Joy has grown. So it kind of like hides the fact that we're also seeing that she really hasn't. So I did like that was I didn't pick up on that the first time around.
Well, it's right after she launches out those other memories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeeting the bad memories to the back of Riley's mind. But she yeets, and we see like when we get back there, it's not all sadness, anger. You know, there are happy memories in there too that she's yeeting. But it is like, those are the ones that are out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. It's like, oh yeah, no, you like. There's a humor to oh, you haven't learned all the lesson that you were supposed to learn from the last time, but we don't see, I think, the full impact of that until obviously much later.
Yep. And then especially at the very end when it's like, oh, her who she is and like her like who she is as a person is changing. We have to allow that. It can't just be I'm a good person.
Yeah.
Like that's not who she like that's part of who she is now, but that's not who she is anymore. And you have to let those you have to let these new things go. The core part of her where she's like I'm not enough or I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
That is something that will help drive her going forward. That is a feeling like you're not enough and like trying to resolve that, trying to figure that out is a massive part of growing up.
Yeah, it plays as such a gut punch because anxiety hears that and is immediately like, "Oh no, I screwed up." Like that's not a good sense of self. You don't want that to be your whole sense of self. But we do see, in that same sequence that it is driving Riley and she is trying to like break through that and push past that to be better. But yeah, it also then leads to the big old anxiety attack that we get. So yeah.
They have delivered so brilliantly with this film. It is by far, I think, one of the I don't know if it's like anywhere near my favorite, but what I will say is I definitively think it's probably the best, at least in a long time. This is this is so substantive or so substantive. Yeah, thank you. This is so substantive of Pixar coming in and not just clocking in another sequel, right? Like they could have easily done the fun thing, done the funny thing, punch it in and put it out, and people would have had a good time with it. But I think the reason why this resonates so heavily with people, the reason why I think this is probably one of their best ones is it has some of the most complex storytelling they've ever done. Mm-hmm. It has some of the most interesting seeing characters' journeys. We get to see sadness be brave. We get to see joy break down, just be like, yeah, guys,
of course I'm delusional.
Yeah. I'm joy. Yeah. And but we also get to see anger has a very beautiful, soft soul to him when he it's like,
I can't always be the rage guy.
Yeah. I can't always be the rage guy. Like him, suggesting something beautiful as an idea for Riley.
She buys all the opposing team flowers. What? I can't always be the rage guy. Yeah.
We get to see disgust be more than just a ew. It's being disgust also means the things you don't want to be as a person.
I think my favorite disgust sequence is, and it's one of the scenes I wanted kind of more of out of this one, based off the premise that they tease us with at the end of Inside Out 1 is disgust is she can read the same signals of the friends.
Yes.
And we get that great sequence where she sees the brow furling. She's like, they've got a secret. I know that. And then we go into the other kid's head, and that disgust sees we've got a secret. And then the third disgust sees oh no, they're on to us. And then I love that in that one, Grace, somebody in Grace's head is spills the tea. Oh no, spill the tea! And then the tea comes out, of course.
It's great. There's something so wonderful about that. Sadness being, or not sad, yeah, panic. I'm trying to remember him, the purple one.
Fear.
Fear, thank you. Fear being super prepared for everything.
Yeah.
And I'm the parachute is such a great example of just well, of course I'm afraid of falling, so I'm going to have a parachute on. It's fear is also preparation. It's that anticipation of okay, well, what can I do to resolve my fears?
Yeah. There are a few great lines in the film, and one of them for me is the fear protects her from the scary stuff she can see, and my job is to protect her from the things she can't for anxiety. And it is such a great encapsulation of anxiety and how anxiety does play a role in conjunction with fear, and why it wasn't just, oh, we're going to make fear that character this time around. We're going to morph fear into anxiety. It is, here's why anxiety is its own separate entity in this.
Yep. And it's done so brilliantly and done so well. Shout out to nostalgia being shoved back in, be it's too soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember when we all did that? Whoa, you're here way too early, nostalgia. Give it another decade and then you can come back and be nostalgic for things. Yeah.
That was great. Ennui, I think, might be one of my new favorite additions to it. Mm-hmm. Just the, I've prepared for this moment my entire life.
Yeah. I love Ennui having the app.
Yeah.
I love the like as they're having the whole debate and discussion around what do we do with our hands, Ennui's just like, that's what pockets are for.
Perfect.
And they're
Yep.
like, great. No notes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Ennui being the like the introduction to the sarcasm, I thought was a great
Okay, the
beat.
sarcasm was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was so good. I flipped my lid when that happened because I'm like, you've gotta be kidding. Like, all the word puns, this is the best one. And then on top of that, it's like, oh, maybe they can help us. And it's just, you only hear sarcastic.
Oh, maybe they can help us. Yeah, yeah.
Just all of that going off of that, I was just like, this is so brilliant. It's such a great thing. The only thing I think that is weak about this movie is I feel like there is that there's a lot of time being spent with the walk to the back of the mind. It breaks up a lot of like the interesting stuff happening with Riley and the other like the emotions in headquarters. Which I get why they wanted to do that. They wanted to show you progress that, oh yeah, they are taking their time. And it has some good moments to it. We get some really good lines from it. But I feel like it does, unfortunately, drag the movie just a little bit.
I think, like the movie, I was looking, like when I was playing this, I think it's like a minute shorter or a minute longer than the first movie. It's like almost the exact same amount of time as the first movie. But I think,
and even with the credits, it was like 100 minutes. So
yeah, like
not very long.
To your point, it is very much in the first movie, we saw more parts of the brain because we spent most of our time in the brain and we weren't really going around and seeing Riley in real life. We spend so much time in this one seeing how all of this stuff is manifesting with Riley and seeing how it is taking its toll on Riley and how, the stresses of her friends not going to be at the same school as her next year, plus, all of the anxiety stuff with the hockey team and stuff. So we spend so much more time in the real world that, then it also is like, okay, so they've been traveling back there for 2 days. Like they've been traveling to the back of the mine for 2 days because this is a 3-day skill camp thing.
Yeah.
And we're finally getting back there. Yeah. So it like, and we get a couple little like new locations. Like we get the Vault of Secrets, we get the sarcasm, we get the stream of consciousness, which I thought was a fun pun. And the way they use that of like, oh my God, we hate these. We hate how these taste. These granola bar things. We hate. What's that texture? What is that making me think of? And we cut to the stream of consciousness, and it's like cardboard and like asparagus, and it's broccoli, and it's just like all the. So it's a fun visual gag for the unspoken bit there. But yeah, like in the last one, we had the whole thing in like Dream Productions and the whole fun of meeting Bing Bong and all that stuff. Whereas this is much more like they're just kind of on the path. Yeah, they have a few more puns or introductions to things like the Parade of Future Careers thing that lets them lead into the brainstorm pun. But it is a inordinately long journey. I agree with that. But at the same time, one of the notes I took was, I think, to contrast that there is such a great economy of storytelling with the introduction of her little friend group.
Yes.
So much so that like we're as wrapped up in it and as we're hurting as much as Riley is when she realizes she just plowed through Grace in that final thing that leads into the anxiety attack. And the moment of the friends like helping pull her out of it when she kind of comes back to, and like she has her apology and they all kind of put their hands in for like the fist bump thing. It's like I was tearing up watching. I'm like, we had like 10 minutes of this friendship before it falls apart and Riley kind of moves over into this other thing. And so like they just do such a great job of with the very minimal amount of time. Like it's the kind of thing like, oh, it's almost as impactful here as it would have been if she had made them as friends in the last movie. And, and we would have known that they've been friends for 2 years. But it is such like, it's a montage thing, but we still care about that friendship. And we don't want, like, it's probably more we care enough about Riley that we want Riley to be okay. but like that is a case there where it's like, and I remember when I walked out of the movie the first time thinking like I was not expecting the movie to be such a exploration of that kind of change, and yeah, your life being turned upside down in not an emotional way. Yes, the puberty heightening all these new emotions, like throwing a whole big wrench into all that, but even without that, the shock of learning that your two best friends aren't going to be going to the same school as you next year at a time where, you know, teenage life is everything, and that is a drastic change where, yeah, even if you are only living like a few blocks apart, that's still going to drastically impact how much you actually see them in your life.
Yeah.
Like I remember, you know, the like in middle school we had like at Mojave Middle School we had like a house structure where it was like 7th grade you were in house 1, house 2, or house 3, and then 8th grade you were in house 4, house 5, or house 6, and like all of your classes except electives were basically with people within your same house.
Yeah.
Electives would be like, oh, now you have some classes, some you know, other classes with, or some students from house 1 and house 3 or whatever. And the friends I made in house 2, when they moved into house 5 and I was in house 6, even though we're, you know, 2 doors down from each other in classroom stuff, I never saw them, and like it drastically upturned, you know, the cycle of things. So yeah, like that being kind of such a monumental time, I think also feeds into like knowing what that impact is going to be for Riley, and knowing that there's probably an element that she doesn't even realize. Like she's definitely in turmoil about it, but she doesn't realize how big of a change that's really going to be because she hasn't lived that yet. Well, I guess she has, because she, you know, moved out from Minnesota, so she, you know, did completely upend and lose her friends.
Michigan,
so,
but yeah.
No, Minnesota.
Oh, it's Minnesota? But they've been called...
It's really Minnesota. Everybody
that's right. Everyone calls her
Michigan.
Michigan. That's right, yeah.
And then I love the beat at the end where they say, "Hey, Minnesota," because she has finally corrected them and kind of set the record
right.
straight.
Okay,
so yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, she's actually from Minnesota, but they say Michigan, and she just goes with it.
Yeah, because she wants to.
We can't correct Val. Like she's Val. So yeah.
Also, yeah, shout out to this, like the Firehawk squad of just being like the kind of like girl group that, you know, all young girls want to be a part of. Like there is a team here, but there's also like a friend group here, and it feels very natural. And Val basically giving her like the seal of a quasi approval of being like, I think you're going to be really cool, and like regardless of whether or not you're on the team or not, like you like some of the girls really getting to Riley about being like, yeah, like you, like this is your shot. And then you can see like I'm trying to be nice, but at the same time I'm a teenage girl, and like nothing I say about like it's not going to work that way. Yeah, it is just such a fascinating way of looking at them and being like, okay, yeah, no, these are also love that they all have the same dyed lock. Like it's the Firehawk lock look, right? Like it's so good. And brings up one of my favorite moments, one of my favorite freaking moments. The big idea. The big idea. What is it? She dyes her hair.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, that is a thing. Like there you go. Like all these drastic measures, all these massive drastic things. All of a sudden, the real big idea, putting some food coloring in your hair.
Yep.
Like you love to see it. It's great.
Yep, indeed. My other, I think probably my absolute favorite line from the movie, just because of how hard it hits, is like that beat near the end where Joy is defeated and says, maybe this is what happens when you grow up. You feel less joy. It's like, oh, that hits so hard as somebody pushing 40. Yeah,
I paused when that line came up. I'm like, oh, as I'm just like, I'm in my parents' guest bedroom.
Yeah,
like that was a brutal fucking line.
Yeah, it's very much like a lot of this movie. I'm sure hits you in a way that does not hit me because
for sure,
because I feel like our relationships with anxiety is very different.
Totally different.
I can be anxious, but it's never to this kind of like spiral level that we see happen with Riley.
You have observed me spiraling.
Indeed,
like,
yeah.
So it's like when that spiral literally happens, I was like freaking out because I'm like, yeah, no, that's how it feels. That's what it feels like. It's an unstoppable cycle, like just cyclone that you're just like you're caught up in, and you just spiral, and it's bad.
It's very much like my own personal like emotional balance leans way more into the stoic, where like I might be anxious about these things, but that's more or less under control and more in tandem with every other thing. But like I know plenty of friends, and I see plenty of friends, and I'm very fortunate that I have grown up and like was raised and grew up to be an empathetic person, so that like when all of the anxiety stuff gets introduced, I'm like, oh, I absolutely like, this isn't like, oh, this is a new way of thinking about it. Like I can see that in friends and see exactly how easily anxiety can kind of take over and become that dominant emotion. It's very much like I'm the parents at the end where like anxiety finally pops up, and both of the parents are like the emotions are kind of dismissive of anxiety, of like 3 days at camp and all we get is okay, what does that mean? Oh, it's hi, welcome back anxiety. and the dad being like, yeah, let's get back to the game.
Or it's like, it sounds about right. Let's get back to like, perfect. Yeah. I'm like, I saw that, I was like, God, I am almost or probably as old as that dad, and I do not have that skill, and it would be nice. Also shout out to the parents being in the movie for such a little bit, but also absolutely like owning their scenes. It's great.
Yep. The being super supportive, cheering at the foghorn stuff, being the very supportive parents driving the kids to the school or to the 3-day thing. Yep. Nice little pop-ups when they do.
Yep. Also shout out to the coach just being like, you think that's funny? Mm-hmm. And it'd be like, oh yeah, because sometimes joy is the wrong emotion.
Yeah. Yep.
Nailed it. It's so good. This movie is so good.
I love the 'cause obviously we got teased with it at the end of the last movie when the like puberty, alarm gets introduced, and we see it in full effect here. I love the way that it's implemented, being like everything is heightened. Because that is absolutely, again, as we've touched on in multiple That D Plus shows, a lot of like, the when you're when you're in middle school and high school, when you're a teenager, when you're that age, everything is
it's so much, it's heightened, it's worse.
The most important thing that is ever going to happen to you in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it absolutely nails it 100% when they do that. It's like oh, I barely touched the console though. Like what's going on? And it zooms into the mom's mind of being like, well, this is a good look at what the next 10 years is going to look like.
Yeah. Like we knew this day was going to come. Let's go with our speech, and there's the next 10 years. The rage and the like the way we get to see it a little bit with each of the original 5 of like, the like rage or the anger, immediately yelling at mom, disgust, immediately being disgusted by your body odor and acne and whatnot, sadness, immediately being like, this is the worst thing ever, and fear immediately being like, oh my god, I can't, I'm not, it's not gonna work, I can't go to this thing. I loved that. And then feeding into the joy, being like, no, like, this is not the time for joy. This is the time we need to kind of buckle down, be serious, because we're here. And the coach has said, like, hey, like, straighten up, everybody. And doesn't resonate, doesn't get through.
Which is, it's such a, that's also like a turning point for the emotion to be like, oh, joy doesn't always have all the answers. Like, it's a very confirmation for them to like, oh, the person who's been working here the longest doesn't have all the answers.
I love that, like, that's played a couple times.
Yeah.
Like, she's been here the longest, but, like, it was introduced in the last movie. She's only been there, like, 3 seconds longer than Sadness.
Yep.
Like, yeah, she's been here the longest, just barely. Everybody else also came pretty early on, guys.
Yeah.
I love all the pouchy stuff.
Pouchy was great.
The very
the whole like secrets thing is like, here's a secret. She still likes the show. And it's like phenomenal.
Yeah. Or the crush on the video game character, Lance Slashblade. Lance having such a terrible special move. Shout out to I caught this the first time around watching it. I wonder if you did as well. After the Lance Slashblade power move gets all the other guards sent back into a vault, we see a little hat on the ground that says "My Hat." And if you recall, in the first Inside Out movie, the debate that the two characters were having was, it says "My Hat." Well, but is that your handwriting or mine kind of thing? The Dave Goelz and Frank Oz debate. I loved the callback to that.
It was great.
It was absolutely my favorite little visual gag of this.
Also, shout out to Mount Crushmore. So good. Yeah. Just such a good bit. Like, and also Lance Slashblade is there. Oh, they got his good side. What are you talking about? Every side of him is his good side. Like, discussed having a crush also on Lance Slashblade was great.
Yeah. Like, again, going back to like the puns, you can't just bottle up your emotions. We see the emotions immediately bottled up and suppressed.
They're like, we can't breathe. Immediately pokes holes into it. It's like, great.
The like the fact that Pouchy always has dynamite in him, and Anger just like, oh, Pouchy, all right, shut up, and then just immediately starts pulling, and we hear Pouchy being like, oh my god,
it's great.
Love that little play. I love the introduction to the sense of self and the belief system being like a new kind of bigger thing that gets introduced and kind of helps dictate who Riley is when none of the emotions are, at the helm. Shout out to that. Shout out to just kind of the framing sequence at the beginning of the hockey game, especially since hockey is going to be such a big focal point of the film, being the thing that like brings us all back up to speed, and we like that is used to like reintroduce all the characters and the roles that they play in Riley in relation to that. Absolutely love that. Shout out to the rumor mill gag. We don't get a ton of it, but it is a fun little bit there.
What happened to journalistic integrity?
Yeah,
so good. Which also plays back into him reading like a paper in the first film.
Sure. Yep. I love the little visual that we do get of like the console summoning Joy, like this like Riley's asking for you, Joy, like you're the one that should be leading right now, because and then that just lovely little moment of like her just letting go and just enjoying the friendship of everything.
Also, she passed it to Val for the goal at the very like as it like starts fading away. You see her pass it to Val, and Val shoots and scores, and it's like okay. And we also know at the very end of the movie, she impressed the coach enough to.
Yep, I mean, based on the smile, I think it's a fair assessment, fair assumption that she makes the team.
Yep. Shout out also to the not ready, like not ready yet, and just like the breakdown over that. So freak. I know that leads to like the big idea, but like that breakdown is like such a like just so visceral.
Yeah.
So good.
Did you stick around for the post-credit scene?
Yes.
Yeah, where we get to see what the deep dark secret was.
And then Joy's like, "Oh, I thought it was the time we peed in the pool," and that's now the deep dark secret.
Yeah. I love that. Like the deep dark secret being like, "We burn a hole in rug." Oh, that's it. I thought you were gonna say the time we peed in the pool. Oh. Yeah, just immediately goes back in and hides. Yeah, that was very much. We talked about it. Spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine, but like the fact that the post-credits scene for Deadpool and Wolverine wasn't a resolution of why was Thor crying is it like this movie did that right. It was like, oh yeah, that is the lingering question that got introduced earlier in the movie. What was the deep dark secret? Cool, we came back, we circled back to it, and we get it resolved. Also, shout out, I didn't pull it into the trivia or anything, but shout out to the nice little Joy has a little Bing Bong statue in her So while Riley doesn't remember Bing Bong anymore, Joy still does. So
That's
nice
wonderful.
little callback to that character and the emotional beat of the first film. Any final thoughts or highlights you want to call out before we dive into the grading?
No, I think we're good to go. Let's go ahead and launch ourselves into grading.
Cool. One last thing I will shout out. In the credits, there's a little thing saying, this film was dedicated to our kids. We love you just the way you are. Love that. That was a
That's
nice
good.
little beat. All right. Then yes, dive into the report card. We grade from A+ to F. What do you want to give Inside Out 2 here, Cam?
I'm giving Inside Out 2 an A+.
A+?
I think that it is, like I mentioned earlier, the complexity of the story, the like really brilliant puns and insights into kind of mental psychology going on with it, as well as just kind of like a nod also to like what it means to be like an animator with that whole like animation farm that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Also for the absolute
the 1984 Apple commercial homage to it.
I forgot to mention that. Yes, that was awesome.
It also has a fun little lineage since Pixar originally started as like an Apple subsidiary.
Yep. Yeah, I think though the final thing that like really reaches A+ for me is this is probably the best example of anxiety I've ever seen in screen.
Mm-hmm.
Giving it actual life and giving it also empathy. It's not just the villain. It's trying to help. It is a supposedly helpful part of your brain. And we see how that can go wrong. And that is the best example of anxiety I've ever seen on screen.
Yeah.
The only thing I can really compare it to is, I forgot what movie it is. It's a movie where a kid with autism is like trying to track down like something for his father who died in 9/11. It's I forgot what it's called, but very poignant film, very good film, very heartbreaking film too. Tom Hanks plays the dad, so that adds to it. But that's probably the only other time I've ever seen like a sort of like look at what it means to be having those things happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think this does a better job because it's animation. It can do a better job of it.
Mm-hmm.
The moment where there was an actual spiral happening, and I'm like, goddamn, okay. So yeah, for me, it really carries that into an A+ range for me.
Yeah, I think I'll give it an A+ too. I think one of the things I think I mentioned this back when we talked about it on that Nerdy Site show. There was a dad near me that was talking about like he brought it. He was seeing it with his kids, and he like his daughter had obviously watched the first movie many times, and I would see I think it was a mix of like he mentioned that like the kids, even if the kids didn't remember like fear or disgust, they would like refer to what emotion they were feeling, like I'm feeling blue today, or I'm feeling green, or I'm feeling red. And that was kind of like they used that as like a language to help communicate the emotions and basically have that shared language. And afterwards, I remember overhearing him talk, I think to his wife or somebody, about the like the benefit that he would have in using this movie now to help communicate some of those more complex emotions like anxiety to his growing daughter. So I was like, oh, that's like, I think that's another thing that this movie and its predecessor really have going for it, is the idea that this is helping children especially be better able to communicate the things that they're going through when they can be such complex emotions, and being able to just express, I'm feeling anxious because I'm feeling orange today or something like that. I think is I think it can have a very profound impact on hopefully the future of kind of, or the kids growing up with, and the relationship with mental health, moving
For
forward.
sure.
Yeah. All right. Extra credit, other suggestions if you like this. Of course, there is the first Inside Out film. which we did. I didn't write the episode number down, but it was not too long ago. We basically did it in honor of this coming out to theaters. So you can go back a few months and catch that if you want our thoughts on the first film. You have Riley's First Date. You have Turning Red, which I think we did a couple years ago, probably. There is Inner Workings, which was a Pixar short from 2016, I think it was. Elemental, Luca, Soul, and Onward. And then I threw a little nod out there to if you watch it on Disney Plus, you probably saw like a little ad for these two things coming up. But there is Dream Productions, which is going to be a series of shorts inspired by the Dream Productions Inside Out. Those are coming out December 11th. And then Pixar's first like series, Win or Lose, coming out February 19th, 2025. So if you like this, go check out some of those when they come out. Extracurriculars, do you watch anything else on Disney Plus, or was it really just Inside Out this week?
Well, I'm also watching it. Like I haven't watched it yet, but Agatha All Along.
Yeah.
Episode 3 came out this week, so I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah, that's I sat down and watched that last night after rewatching Inside Out. I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on this third episode. I saw IGN's Joshua Yale, I think, came out and was like, this is the like spookiest, most like horror vibed of the episodes so far. And he really enjoyed it. I think he gave it like an 8 out of 10 for the episode. Yeah, it was a good one. Got some good fun humor into it, and also just helps further cement the relationships of this coven as they go. So, yeah, go check that out. All right, well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk about Inside Out 2. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot, 2 B's and 2 T's. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, I want to give a massive shout out to our last episode of That D Plus Show. We had a really great time kind of just going through what we've recently been doing.
I was that Nerdy Site Show?
What did I say? That D Plus Show?
That D Plus Show, yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, no, That Nerdy Site Show. I talked about Bloodborne, kind of like my journey, kind of like engaging with that game, and kind of like where I was at, kind of exploring through it and kind of doing side quests for the first time in that game. So
there you go. Cool. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. I will plug next week starts October, so we will be diving into yet another Halloween-themed month here on That D Plus Show. Next week's episode, I believe, is probably going to be The Scariest Story Ever, a Mickey Mouse Halloween Spooktacular. Little 30-minute animated Mickey little thing. So we'll do that. We've got Goosebumps in the dock for October. Of course, we'll do another Treehouse of Horror trilogy, as we've done the last few years. And then we'll figure out some fourth thing to do. I think Can of Worms was one of the things that was out there. The Scream Team, or just because it's coded in the like Disney Plus Halloween section, maybe we'll just do Into the Woods the musical. Who knows? But yeah, so stay tuned for that over the next few weeks as we dive into our Halloween-themed batch of episodes. Also, just one last shout out to our friends over at What's Good Games. Their final episode is out basically when you're listening to this. Their final episode of What's Good Games coming out Friday. They've had a great run, and I look very forward to seeing what is next for all of them. Much love to Andrea Renee, Rihanna, and Brittany Braunbacher as they take their next adventure. And shout out to past What's Good Games hosts Alexa Ray Correa and Christine Steimer. Much love to them. Got to sit in on their recent like finale live stream thing that they did this last week that you can watch on their YouTube channel. And it was a nice little send off that they basically did right after they recorded their very, emotional, tear-filled final episode. So this was like that was the like live stream celebration. And now tomorrow as we're recording this today, if you're listening to this today, it goes out. We get basically their little send off and their look back on their time together in the What's Good Games podcast. So much love to them. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest. If you liked what you heard, once again, please like, rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other. Class dismissed.